right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, Megan, thanks very much. Good evening, everyone. It is a Sunday night edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We are here taking your calls 7 nights a week on the Bordas & Bordas hotline, which is 412-575-2600. You can also activate us on Twitter at KD Pomp, at The Pony Show. And Andrew Filipponi will be on the showdown tonight along with Josh Joey and Jason Mack. We have a lot of good Penguin talk coming up on that program, among some other stuff as well. But today's big topic is the Pirates. They finally lost a game after winning 2 against San Francisco. And boy, San Francisco, you talk about cyclical nature of sports. They go from 3 world championships and now just a shell of their former self with a lot of big-time salary that hasn't produced much. That's the nature of the beast. But the Pirates, with all these injuries, still were in position to win a game in the bottom of the ninth. It came down to one play. I showed you that play. I'll show you more and get reaction at 11 o'clock. But Andrew Filipponi of Pony and Muller every day, 2 to 6, plus his national show on CBS Sports Radio, The Pony Show. So that
Happy
play
Easter,
is
Bob.
Happy Easter to you too. Appreciate it. And I know you've changed your meat choice on Easter now because
Prime
of
rib.
because
That
of
was
your
a
wife.
huge move.
That was
That was a gigantic move. Like Rutherford would have been jealous of that trade. It was that good.
It's all good in my book. My mother-in-law made it today. She always does a great job. Thank you, Beta Rose. Anyway, I want to talk to you about that play. Jung Ho Kang got a green light. Joey Quarter's not afraid of giving a green light, but should he have given him that green light, knowing it was Jung Ho Kang? I understand. If it's Cole Tucker, if it's anyone else, probably absolutely. But it's Jung Ho Kang, and clearly he was laboring.
He was, but I think in that situation with 2 outs in the ninth inning down a run, the situation is this, Bob. If you hold up Jung Ho Kang and he stops at third, then Elias Diaz comes up. He probably gets walked to load the bases, and now the game is on Pablo Reyes' bat. And I don't know if you've seen Pablo Reyes' bat this year, Bob. Wouldn't call it great.
I know, but all you would need then is a hit of any sort, an error, anything, a wild pitch. I understand.
Okay, so what are the
that.
odds he gets a hit there?
And
He's a 220
I'm not
hitter.
criticizing.
20%?
I'm not criticizing this move in that it was, if you win it, great. If you lose it, people will question it. I'm just saying it's for shows like this.
Yeah.
It's fodder that we go into. Kang just didn't show me that he was going to make it, even with a bobble in the outfield. Watching that play, I thought there's no way he should have gone. Anyway, he did. However, the Pirates also, didn't score enough today. Pretty much that's been their problem. When they lose games, they've been involved in one-run games. I think their margin of victory and their run differential is really, really narrow, which means they're winning a lot of these games. But because their pitching has been so excellent, which brings us to Chris Archer.
Yeah.
Andrew, when I look at Chris Archer, I see talent. I see a lot that I like. 4 scoreless today, and all of a sudden he's out of the game in the 5th. What's your take on Chris Archer so far?
Underwhelmed, I would say. I mean, he's the weakest link of what has been the best pitching staff in all of the National League. But I expected in year 2, or his first full year with the Pirates, that we'd see a guy who would, prove and show everybody why he was that big trade deadline acquisition. And frankly, Bob, I haven't seen that yet. His ERA's fine. It's in the 2s. But in 2 of his 4 starts, he's gone only 5 innings. And only 1 of those starts, he's pitched into the 7th inning. And I'm not asking Chris Archer, Bob, to be Clayton Kershaw in his prime. But your bullpen's been very spotty this year against one of the worst hitting teams in baseball, the San Francisco Giants. That's a game to me where Chris Archer should give you 7 innings. Would you not agree with that? I mean, that's a 7-inning start for Chris Archer against that team. It's not Milwaukee.
Right.
We're not talking about the Yankees or the Red Sox. It's the Giants. All their guys, you've mentioned it, past their prime. They're ready to do talk shows and TV like the 2 of us. I mean, you've got a lot of old players there. So I think that's a place at home you got to get more innings from Archer.
You do, but overall this pitching has been better than even I thought it could be, or probably you thought it could be. It's been outstanding. It's been consistently good from a starting and relieving point of view. So if you keep getting that, and with the return of Dickerson and Marte and Polanco eventually, I think there's some good things in their future. We'll talk about that. Call us with your take. Also want to get into the Steeler draft, which is coming up on Thursday. Real quick, Andrew, we have about a minute before we go to a break and get in those calls.
Yeah.
Your take on what they have to do with 10 picks. I'm of the belief they shouldn't draft 10 people.
Right.
That's a waste of picks in my view, just because most logically, picks 5th, 6th, 7th round, you're not going to get guys who are going to come in and start you every now and then. They've pulled some rabbits out of the hat, so to speak. But what's your take on what they should do?
I think you want Devin Bush or Devin White, but if you've looked at every mock draft, it seems slim to none that one of those players is going to be on the board. So at that point, Bob, I'm really nervous because their track record with corners, which would probably be the next biggest position of need, is not very good. You know, I was told this, I don't know if you've heard this too, but the player I would keep my eye on here in the next few days is Clelin Ferrell of Clemson. He's a pass rusher, an edge rusher who's played in some huge games, has been a very productive player. And given Bud Dupree's situation, I would not be shocked if the Steelers take an outside edge rusher with the 20th pick in the draft.
If that's the case to me, if they don't get the Devins, then I'd go cornerback. I still think you need as much depth there as you can. We're going to get your take on this. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. Get on the phone. Call us. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on Pittsburgh CW. The Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call is brought to you by Ireland Contracting, putting new roofs on Pittsburgh homes for over 25 years. Call Ireland Contracting at 1-800-NEW-ROOF.